Welcome to WP-Tonic, episode 36. Today, Jonathan and I have Dustin Hartzler on. And Jonathan, what are we going to talk about today?
Oh, well, we're going to talk, Dustin, about, his past career, how he got into WordPress, how did he end up working for Automatic. And then we're going on, because Dustin did a lot of podcasts about page builders and about the dreaded competition in some way. And we're just going to have a good talk about Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, maybe also Rainmaker, see if Dustin's got any thoughts about Rainmaker, and just have a broad sweep, because his podcasts were better than mine, actually, or ours, Bill. So,
yeah, he's number one.
He's the number one. He
iTunes.
actually had the insights, Bill. I'm not sure about my insight, Bill, but I did my best last week, didn't I, Bill?
Right. Inch by inch to cinch. We'll get there someday.
All right. So, Dustin, how did you get into the crazy world of WordPress?
Wow, this takes me a journey back to like 2009-ish. A few years before that, I learned how to build websites with Microsoft Front Page. Woohoo! Like, that's how I got my start into websites. And I think the biggest challenge I was having when building websites was I was perfectly fine, figuring out the structure of building a website and making everything very easy for me to build, for it to expand. So I could build all the pages and menus and stuff that I knew that I would need. But it was the dynamicness of building menus that really got me hooked into WordPress, because the fact that, you build this whole site, it's 100 pages, and then a client comes and it's like, oh, can you add one more menu item? We forgot one. And then to go back and have to edit all those files and stuff, it was a complete pain. And so when I figured out that you could do this with WordPress, and before, when I first got started with WordPress, the custom menus weren't there, like the drag and drop menus, but you still could dynamically create them, which was really, really nice. So that was super helpful. And that was probably how I got my start. That's how I got connected to WordPress and started using it, because of the ease of building menus and adding new pages.
So was you doing this as a full-time gig, or was this a kind of part-time gig and you had a full-time job as well?
Yeah, it was a part-time gig for a while. So I graduated from college in 2007, and then I was a corporate engineer at WordPress, or at Whirlpool. So I was a corporate engineer at Whirlpool, and I was doing this kind of on the side, and I was listening to a lot of other podcasts, and people were sharing about how they were making all this money online. They were having their own businesses and things like that. And I was like, well, I can totally do that. And so I worked for 3.5 years as an engineer, and kind of on the side, I was building websites for friends. I had a guy who was a friend of mine who ran for county commissioner, and I built him a website, and I built that with WordPress, and it took me 9 times longer than it should have, because I was just learning WordPress. But I experienced a lot of just great information and learning by trying to figure this out with WordPress. And then from there, I just continued to get better and better at it. And eventually in 2010, I left my corporate gig and we moved to Dayton, Ohio. And then I started my own WordPress development business, and I still knew very, very little about WordPress.
Wow. That's an amazing story.
Yes,
I don't feel so bad, Jonathan.
Well, it's not uncommon, actually. It's you get some. I don't know if you agree with this, Dustin. It's a very diverse pathway. You get some people that come from the kind of book publishing design background. You get others that come from a very traditional computer science background, and then you get people like a lot of people that have got a more kind of untraditional pathway into WordPress. Actually, that's one of the things I like about it, Dustin, is that you meet a lot of really interesting people, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Apart from this English geezer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I met Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how interested I am. Are you going to refuse to laugh at my jokes, Dustin? Or are they not?
They haven't been funny enough yet.
See, we laugh at that. That's ridiculous.
That's so English.
It's inside humor.
So get on to Automatic. So what's the good, give us a couple of good things about working for Automatic. And if I dare you, can you name a couple of things that are not so great about working for Automatic, or are they going to sack you?
No, they won't sack me for that. So I think I should continue on my journey just a little bit and explain that. So after working as an engineer for 3.5 years, and then I had my own business for 3.5 years, and I built websites for people, mostly small businesses. Most of them were, I had a lot of people who were building a website as a personal brand. They wanted something up for their business, whatever it was. And I was taking WordPress themes, I was purchasing them and customizing them and making them what they needed to be. And so after a few years of that, and of course I was doing my podcast all at the same time, when that happened, I got really interested in answering people's questions about WordPress because they were so random and they were so intriguing. I don't know. I've never thought of that before, but I'm sure WordPress can do that. So then I would spend hours digging into it and trying to figure it out. And that became my joy and my passion for a while. And when somebody said, I'd have a project for a $2,000 website, and it's I don't really even feel like doing that. I would rather just help people. And that's kind of when I was listening to another podcast and was talking to to somebody that worked at Automatic, and I was like, I should really check out this Automatic thing. So I signed online, I looked at their Work With Us page, and I was like, man, this sounds like a dream come true. This is a perfect company for me, even though I vowed that I'd never work for anyone ever again. So it turned out I applied, and it was quite a tedious process to get in. There was back and forth a few interviews. I had a small project to do. I had to work for 6 weeks under a contractor license to make sure that I was a good fit for the company, and the company was a good fit for me. And then finally got hired on in December of 2013. So I just hit my 16-month milestone. I know that because one of the benefits of working at Automatic is every 16 months we get a brand new computer. They just make sure that the computer is the most useful tool. It's what we use every single day. We clock 8 to 10 hours every day on it. So we want to make sure that we've got the nicest machines out there.
What does Automatic recommend for a computer?
You can purchase anything that you want, but I would say 99% of the company is all Macs. We basically can go to the Mac store and screenshot put stuff in the cart that we need or what configuration that we want, and then screenshot it, and then they buy it through our corporate store. So I'm actually waiting for a computer right now. One is my wife's is coming today, and then mine's coming tomorrow. So just happened that hers was at an upgrade time about the same time as I needed one. So I'm like, well, let's get new computers this week. So
what'd you get? What kind of Mac?
So I got right now I'm using a 15-inch MacBook Pro with a Retina screen, and I decided this time around I'm going to go down to a 13-inch, mainly because I do probably 95% of my work is all done with it's all done connected to a Thunderbolt monitor, and so there's no real reason for me to have it's no reason, I don't really need a big screen. So I went with I pretty much configured one of the nicest 13-inch Macs that's out there, or I ramped up the RAM and maybe 512 hard drive or something, but it's just kind of one of the midline Macs. So I'm going with a 13-inch. I really wanted to pull the trigger and get that new 12-inch MacBook that just came out, but you can't use an external display with it, and it doesn't have a very strong processor. So I opted for maybe the next time around in 16 months, maybe I'll get that one.
Which chip did you get? i7 or i5?
I think it's the i5, i7, whatever the newest thing is. That I just got one of the newest ones that was just revamped, at that last MacBook.
Shall we rename the episode the Mac Weekly Podcast, Bill?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm going to ask Dustin. Hopefully, Dustin, I have a podcast alley, and I was going to invite you to be on it in MX. My one interview, I get it live at NMNX. So if we can make it, we'll talk about we bring your MacBook.
Right. So get on to the good points. What's the good point?
Yeah, I'm finally getting to the question part. So some of the benefits that I have at working at Automatic is that the job and the work is extremely flexible. This is probably one of the main reasons that I wanted to try working at Automatic, because we have a 1-year-old daughter now. We were expecting when I got hired, and so I didn't want to have to try to be finding clients and then juggling client projects and, doing all that type of thing. So like if I have to be up in the middle of the night with my daughter, like I can be up in the middle of the night, I can sleep in, and then I can work later in the afternoon or the evening. Like I just have a lot of flexibility in the work. It's really fun to be able to work with people from all over the world. So I have my team there's a team of 13 of us, and we're one of the few teams that everyone is located in North America. All but one is in the United States, one is in Canada, and we just span the 4 time zones in the US. There's other teams that have people over in Europe. They have them in Australia, India, places like that. So that's one of the really cool parts as well. It's pretty neat to be able to get to know people on a kind of a personal level, even though we communicate almost exclusively via text. And so like I know today is one of my teammates' birthdays, and he's taking off early for the day because it's his birthday and he's going to do whatever he wants on his birthday or whatever. But it's kind of fun just to know and get to know people that love helping WordPress users as well.
Oh, right. That's great. So what's any kind of drawbacks come to your mind?
I think one of the drawbacks is that we can work anywhere at any time. Like I get volunteered a lot to do things around here. My wife volunteers me to do things because, Dustin, he can work just later. Like he can be there to do that. He can volunteer in the middle of the day and just pick up and go. And so that's not really like a negative with the company per se, but it is. And I know there's other of my coworkers that have said the same thing. Because we have the flexibility, that means that people will count on us and ask us to do things during the day when necessarily like everybody else has to work. So that's one downfall, which isn't really a downfall. I mean, we pick the hours we want to work. We can, choose wisely. I like to work early in the morning, and then I normally have from 7 to, like today I had from 7 to 10 off, taking care of my daughter, and then I went and dropped her off at a babysitter's, and then I have to go pick her up here in a little bit. And so I worked a little in the morning, I worked some in the afternoon. I'm going to work later in the evening and record a podcast later. And so I get to do all of those things. Probably just another challenge is like we don't have one-on-one communication a lot with people. Like we don't actually talk. And this is actually, I mean, it works well for me. Like I'm okay with reading other people's messages via text, but like sometimes you lose that sense of, okay, what are they really saying because they're communicating via text versus communicating via audio or video. And we do a lot of this just so it's documented. So if somebody's off for the week, they can come in and they can read the follow-up conversations and they can see what's going on. So I would say once we get to know each other a little bit better, then we can sense their tones. And actually, like, honestly, when I'm reading people's text messages, like I'm reading them in their voice. Like I've had enough conversations with them that I know, hey, okay, this is Joel, and I know exactly what Joel sounds like and whatnot. So I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. Kind of softball question here. Do you think the way the company's distributed makes it more difficult for somebody that had a disability to actually work for Automattic?
I would say no. I think that the distributed force would help out tremendously, just for the fact that you can work from home, you can work for wherever's convenient for you. Like if you, for example, need a screen reader or something, like that's going to be something that Automattic's going to cover the complete charge for, whatever. Like they'll give you the tools that you need to do your job. So I don't think it's a problem.
All right, I just thought I'd throw that through. And a bit of a naughty question. If you work for Automattic, could you use the Thesis framework?
Good question.
If I knew how to use it, then yes, maybe.
Yeah, I thought I'd just ask that. That was a bit cruel, actually, Dustin. But
all right.
It's just so. I think we'll get on to the other thing. You did an extensive piece about this particular subject, Dustin, and we're doing a month on it about the dreaded competition. Every time I talk about it, I have to wash myself, Dustin. But it is there, and so we're looking at the online competition. And I know you also did a series about it, and I also looked at Joomla and Drupal. I had done a little bit with Joomla a few years ago, but I really think that compared to WordPress, they are both quite complicated. And I think that was your conclusion about those two yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I would say that hands down, Joomla is the most complicated thing I've ever used. Like, I wanted to give a full review of Joomla, and after like 30 minutes after installing it, like I couldn't figure out how to do anything. Like, I created pages, but I couldn't get them to the menu. I created menu links, but I couldn't figure out how to do a single thing. And so I honestly just pretty much gave up and said, don't even try. Like, I mean, that's honestly my opinion. I think I did a series of 8 of these episodes. So I did 3 self-hosted versions, which was Drupal, Joomla, and Magento. And then, so I did those 3, and then there was 5 of the self-hosted that were hosted solutions that I used. And I think that, Joomla was the only one I couldn't do anything at all. Drupal, I really had a hard time changing the content, like the CSS and stuff like that. That was just kind of a challenge to me.
Yeah.
And it was the very first time that I learned how to use Drupal anyways. And so, it's the same thing with WordPress. Like, it was a complicated process to learn and figure out. And now, like 5, 6, 7 years later of using it almost daily, like you kind of understand and know what it can do and its limitations. When you turn Drupal on for the first time, you're like, I don't know how this is. And they call things different, modules are essentially plugins, or extensions or plugins. They all have different names for things, but essentially they do the same thing.
Yeah, there's always a learning curve, but there's learning curves and there's learning curves, isn't there? I haven't got any real experience of Drupal. I have tried it out, and I feel both are definitely not for the kind of small business owner in any shape or form. And I think with obviously you've got WordPress.org and you've got WordPress.com. And I'm a little bit slack on WordPress.com, but I've just gone back to the website, and there seems to be a lot of changes going on with WordPress.com. So we'll probably talk about that quickly, but I would like to get on to the kind of hosted solutions, because you spent a lot of time looking at them. And last week we looked at Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly, and you looked at a number of the group. What are your overall insights and reflections about them, and some of their strengths and weaknesses?
Sure. And I did this review back in November of 2014, so it's been a little while, so I'll see what I can remember. But I really liked how, and I can't remember which platform it is, maybe I should pull up my notes so I can look at it, but a lot of these came with, of the 3, I believe most of them, when you signed up and you started with a new theme, they had default content there already. I think that's one of the limitations of WordPress. Like, you go ahead and install, and you have the about, or you have the sample page, and you have a comment and a hello world post. But you don't have, like, I believe it was Wix. I want to say it was Wix, when you signed up and you picked which type of theme that you wanted. So if it was a restaurant theme or a boutique theme or whatever it was, then it had like 3 or 4 pages already configured for you. And then you just went in and you added your phone number and your email address, and then your content, your copy, and stuff like that. And so I think that's where WordPress can make it a lot easier for people, especially like, I work for Automatic, which is the company behind WordPress.com, and we support WordPress.com users. And we get questions in every single day, and we dread them because they're so hard. But how do I configure my theme to make it look like the example or the demo? And it's ridiculously hard. Like, I was actually doing a review yesterday of, there's a new platform out there called branded.me. And it is it's one that you can build a personal branding site. So basically you can actually connect it with LinkedIn, and it pulls in all your data from LinkedIn, and your website's done in like 2 minutes. It was amazing. Like, I spent some time tweaking that and customizing that, and I really liked that. And I had like 2 or 3 tabs open because I was in the branded.me dashboard, and I was in the branded.me like front end, which you can edit right on the front end, which is super nice. And then I was trying to do the exact same thing on WordPress.com, essentially I could have been doing it on self-hosted WordPress. It just happens that the site that I was building was on WordPress.com. And I had like 4, 5, 6 tabs open because I was like in a preview window, and then I was looking at a live site, and then I was on the dashboard for one thing, and then I had the theme template open in another window so I could look at that to see how it was configured. Like, I mean, and I spent 2 hours yesterday, and I wasn't even close to being done yet. And so it's just that I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we can take away for WordPress is how can we make themes that much easier to configure? And I mean, a user gets frustrated when they come and they install a theme and it looks nothing like the demo. And then when it takes them hours of hunting and figuring out and contacting support, like just to get it to look like the demo, like something needs to be done about that. Personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, I understand that. It should look in some way like the demo. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, I approached, obviously as a kind of quasi developer, and your past background as a developer, I try to place my mind as just a small business owner, and basically. I thought Squarespace was going to be the easiest because in some ways I think it's in some ways the best. But I think if I was just an average person with just bare computer skills and I went to Squarespace, yeah, the designs are the best, but I actually found the process to be a bit confusing if I try to put myself into that mindset of Joe Blogg, small business owner. If I was a marketer or a quasi developer or graphic designer, I'd probably be fine with it. Would you agree with that? That, yeah, it's got its great strengths, Squarespace, but but if you're that small business owner, it's probably not the best solution. What do you feel?
Yeah, I think I can agree with that statement. I think that I felt that I was the most impressed with Wix. Like, I had no idea it was as good as it was. Like, I think it does a really good job for making it easy because, like, you don't really have much of a dashboard. Like, it's all on the front end and you're editing right on the front end, and they have different views so you can look at your website in mobile or via, what it looks like in a tablet and things like that. But I do think that Squarespace can be used for, an average business owner, but I think there's some customizations that need a developer's help. I kind of feel the same way about WordPress. Like, I think sometimes it's best to pay somebody to get your website set up, even with WordPress, and then just start. Then, like, the developer gives them the keys and say, okay, this is how you use it and this is how you manage it. Because is a business owner going to have to, once they set their logo, like, they're not going to have to do that ever again. And why should they waste their time trying to figure out how to get the logo in the right resolution and the right spacing and, like, all of those things that really is a frustrating thing for users and business owners when they'll never have to do it again. And it really doesn't matter. Like, they don't need to know how to do that once it's set up.
Yeah, I think I totally agree again. And I thought I wasn't going to like Wix. I didn't either. I thought this is going to, and then when it came up, I thought this interface looks really cheesy and this is going to be awful. But actually, as soon as I started using it, the actual interface logic and the functionality logic of the application, it's actually easier to use than Squarespace, is it not? Mm-hmm. The only thing is I thought their library, their pricing structure is a dog's breath. You got you got about 6 choices, and you got a list of choices that are longer than my arm, Justin. I thought that was a little bit of a letdown. If you're not used to that kind of, if you're really a newbie to that kind of pricing structure, and you see 6 pricing structures, and you don't, how on earth are you going to make the right choice? And the other factor was that on the free, which is fair enough, and also on the lowest paid, you do have to accept advertisement. And I'm not, what kind of, it's okay from WordPress.com because it's I would totally trust Automatic, for their sensibilities. but I'm not sure about a company like Wix. How's what kind of advertisement you're going to get,
right?
But it's not that highly priced. So I thought it had some really. If you're the small business, it is the one that I would lean to. But the only other factor is I think in their library, I just want to see if you think the same. I don't think everything in their library is that greatly designed. And also, I don't think everything is totally responsive, is it?
I don't know. I didn't look into that as super closely as I should have, probably.
No, I didn't.
The Wix wasn't responsive. So I remember right?
Yeah, their own site isn't responsive.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Bad.
Which I find
Squarespace was, I think.
Yeah, Squarespace. What about? Did you look at Weebly at all?
I did. I don't remember. Let me pull up Weebly so I can maybe refresh my memory. But
also, we have about 5 minutes left, so tying it all together in the last 5 minutes. I would like to hear what you guys are doing at New Media Exposition too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so Weebly, I think that I enjoyed Weebly's experience, and I think it fit well, and I think I was kind of impressed with what it was. I kind of thought it was like a GoDaddy site builder, but in reality, like, it does a pretty decent job if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, they seem to offer an enormous amount of functionality, membership sites, e-commerce, but the other two do as well. Mm-hmm. But there was something about it that didn't work as well as Wix. And I could only put it down to the actual functionality of the editing system. Mm-hmm. But there was something funny about it. Would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It didn't seem like it was nearly as polished.
No, that's great. So I think we're quickly. So what about WordPress.com? Where do you think in the next year that, I'm not asking for any trade secrets or anything, but do you think WordPress.com are looking at the other competition, and are they going to go take the best bits? What's your feelings?
We are constantly looking at the competition and looking at those other platforms and kind of evaluating what they do well and what they don't do well. And I mean, we're not copying in any way, shape, or form, but there's always those design reviews where there's a handful of people in the room and just trying to figure out, okay, how can we make this the most easy for our users? And we're trying to build it so they don't need support. Not that we're trying to get away from support, but we want people to be able to figure out how to do it when by themselves. That's the ultimate goal. If we've designed it well, it should be able to be configured exactly how the user wants it without ever having to contact support.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't there? Especially if you're getting the same support tickets consistently, that's the sign that there's probably something fundamentally wrong with either the UX or something with the actual process, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I suppose that that's where you have your meetings and your discussions, and if you can see a clear pathway, or that that's what the resources has to be aimed at. So do you think that, you already expressed this, you get a lot of inquiries, we want this theme to look like the example. Is that something that you feel that Automatic are going to actively look like, so they provide systems where people get a theme that looks like the example?
I'm not sure where we're going with that, but I know that we want to make it better and easier for our users.
Right, that's very diplomatic. I won't push you. I won't push you anymore on that. We also want to talk about the podcast expo that's coming up, and our
New Media Exposition.
So off you go, Bill.
Are you going to be on the broadcaster side or the NMX side?
I will be in the NMXer side.
Okay.
WordPress.com has a booth. And I've been there the last couple of years as a speaker. And then this year I completely biffed when it came to applying to be a speaker. And so I'm just going on behalf of WordPress.com. We've got a booth there. We'll be answering people's questions throughout the week. If you have any WordPress questions, and it doesn't have to be WordPress.com. It can be any WordPress question. If you have an error message, whatever it is, come find the huge WordPress.com booth, and there'll be me and I believe 8 others that will be able to help out. And just we're giving our time and we're giving back to the community.
It's going to be huge this year because it's connected in with the broadcasters, and they'll be wandering back and forth, and it'll be a good time. Hey, you've got an open invitation. I've got one 30-minute period of Podcasters Alley. Be good to have you on as a guest for Timelines of Success. Yeah, if that works out. I'm not sure exactly what my quote-unquote work schedule looks like while I'm there. Right. But, it'd be good. It'd be good for your business, good for WordPress.com. Or For sure. So anyway, we'll see you there, Dustin, for sure. And looking forward. Jonathan, good show. And we will we'll shoot this up late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, so it'll be on for the week of NMX. Cool.
Oh, thanks, Doug. I think it's given some insights to our user base because they must be looking at these alternatives. But just to finish, and I just want to see if you, the only thing apart from Squarespace, and I think I am correct about this, one of the problems, unlike WordPress.com or WordPress.org, apart from Squarespace, you are most of these systems have no export system. Yep. So if you're locked in, aren't you? Yep. You're locked in big ways.
If you use those platforms and you blog for 2 years, every day for 2 years, and got 100 plus blog posts on there, you've got to manually copy them and paste them out of there.
Yes. I thought I'd just end our interview with that slight warning.
For sure.
Very good. Thanks for coming on, Dustin.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is Bill. Thank you for tuning in to WP-Tonic. This has been a really quick edit. Actually didn't do a whole lot to the edit. It came out pretty well. Tomorrow we head off to New Media Exposition in Las Vegas. Still have a couple more podcasts to edit tonight before we can go to bed. That's Timelines of Success, and we're going to do a Politics of Success edit and get that up. So at New Media Exposition, there'll be 3 up. Hopefully, we're going to do 1 live podcast from the floor of New Media, and hopefully get Dustin on. Well, again, thank you for tuning in, and if you're at New Media Exposition, we'll see you there.